ideas by bringing together research, practice, and community experience, ultimately better preparing us for the uncertainties ahead. Okay, so I would like to introduce you to our team. Dr. Philly Chu Kiefner on the screen is an associate professor in the School of Information Science and the PI for our team. She has led this research project since the very beginning in 2015. And our colleague on the right is Denise Lyons, who is the commissioner for the Kentucky Department of Libraries and Archives. She has been part of this project since beginning as well when she started as a participant. And we wish she could be with us today, but she has a very busy schedule. But my name is April Hobbs. I am the research and data strategist for the network of the National Library of Medicine Region 2 office, which is based at the Medical University of South Carolina Libraries in Charleston, South Carolina. I've been part of this project since my first semester in the MLIS program at the University of South Carolina back in 2017. And this project has been ongoing for 10 years and counting.
And yes, we're keep on going and we're planning for our next. But we would like to share a lot of the findings with you. Why we wanted to do that? Because disasters don't follow a schedule. They happen year-round and they are happening more often. That's why it's more important than ever for librarians to be prepared, for you to be prepared and to feel confident stepping into leadership roles when your communities need you most. That's why it's more important than ever for librarians, for information professionals to be prepared and to feel confident. I attended the webinar yesterday, during which one of the participants mentioned that she had taught disaster planning classes for the NNLM. However, she said that many important things were still overlooked during a flood crisis. This underscored that preparedness requires constant vigilance as extreme weather events can strike at any time. I would like to ask everyone a question. You don't need to give me the answer, but think about it. At a personal level, are you prepared to handle a natural disaster, such as floods, hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes, mudslides, earthquakes, winter storm, or extreme heat? At an institutional level, are your libraries or institutions well prepared to support the communities you serve in responding to such disasters? Please think about it. And I will talk a little bit more why I asked these questions. So I initiated and designed this research series to investigate the value of local libraries and their vital roles in providing community first disaster and health information services. As a library and information science educator, I wanted to examine how librarians serve as first responders before, during, and after disasters. My goal is to integrate these findings into my teaching to better prepared current and future professionals. So our research journey began back in October 2015, when several counties in central South Carolina were hit with catastrophic flooding. The damage was widespread. Homes, business, and public infrastructures were devastated. At that point of time, my house was almost flooded. At that point of time, I asked myself that question. Am I prepared to handle this? Am I prepared? In my head, thousands things coming in. What if I got flooded? Do I need to call my insurance company? Do I need to save anything? Do I need to grab whatever valuable, etc.? And I know, and then I was thinking about, I am an information professional. I can find the resources I wanted to use. I can. But what about those general public who need help? That's the goals that I moved the first step, and I wanted to better understand the situation for my own work, and also I wanted to know how I can help the people who need help during crisis. So from there, we continue our work by studying the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew hit Georgia and South Carolina's coastal in 2016, and Charleston was completely flooded. Pretty much half of the city was buried underwater. We did a survey study, so we got some impression about the community members' information needs. In 2017, we turned our attention to Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4 hurricane that hit Houston, Texas severely. We visited the Houston Public Libraries in late 2018, where we spoke directly with the staff members about how they responded to the disaster. In 2022, we feel like it's necessary for us to expand the scope of our research. So we traveled to 7 counties in Northern California to learn how library staff handle devastating wildfires. So, and including the August complex fire, which burned for months and became one of the largest wildfires in the US history. Then in late 23, we headed to Kentucky. We met with 3 library systems in the west part of the state to discuss tornado response. Step by step, we got more evidence from flooding, hurricane, wildfire. Now we got tornado. We also met with the libraries in 3 more counties in the east, close to the Appalachian area, to discuss how they dealt with mountain flooding and mudsliding. In summer 24, last year, we visited Southern California. We met with library systems impacted by a wide range of disasters, including earthquakes, floods, wildfire, and extreme heat. throughout these studies, we have translated our findings into evidence-based practices that support library operations and librarians' practices. We will provide more details later in the webinar. April?
Okay, so one of the main points we have observed in this project and from our site visits is that libraries and librarians should foster a culture of preparedness. Being prepared means strengthening the capacity to respond effectively when a disaster strikes. It also means bringing all stakeholders on board, from staff members to administration. It also means ongoing staff training, including scheduling yearly disaster preparedness drills so that everyone is familiar with the components of the disaster plan and can react quickly when disaster strikes. Lifelong learning is compatible with being prepared, as times and the climate are constantly changing. For this research, we used two frameworks from business management to organize data and guide our discussion regarding the leadership qualifications demonstrated by information professionals in times of crisis. What we found was a combination of the core tasks that librarian leaders perform in times of crisis. And crisis leadership consists of sense-making, decision-making, and coordinating, meaning-making, ending a crisis, and learning and changing. As a leader, how are you going to learn from a crisis and make constructive, meaningful changes? The second framework is emotional intelligence, which Goleman described as the ability to identify, assess, and control one's own emotions, the emotion of others, and that of groups, which can be further applied to leading during a crisis. And we have seen library leaders demonstrate emotional intelligence to support their staff and communities. And this facilitates the building of capacity and resources for emergency response and recovery. Now, this slide includes how we determine the different types of emotional intelligence that was demonstrated by these librarian leaders. And during analysis, we would compare these things with those of crisis communications and crisis leadership as well.
All right. You have heard how we organize data to highlight the qualification associated with library crisis leadership. Since our discussion centered on preparedness, I would like to emphasize one particular qualification across our studies. We found that effective crisis leaders in libraries ensure that lessons learned from past disasters are not overlooked. They then work collaboratively with library staff to enhance services and develop the specialized programs that support communities before, during, and after a disaster. Next slide, please. So here is a quote as an example. At some point, a sense of normalcy has to return. And when it does, leaders play a key role in helping things stabilize so that the libraries can return to its regular functions. But it's more than just operations. Librarian leaders also need to help guide the community toward closure. Every crisis, no matter how hard, gives us a chance to learn. For libraries and librarians, we need to see each disaster event as an opportunity to reflect, reform, and strengthen our planning and the training for next time. Next slide, April.
Okay. So we identified several challenges that librarians encountered in providing information services during times of crisis. The general public's lack of digital literacy and accessing information is a significant problem. Inequity of access continues to be a major challenge for these libraries. One example from California involved a librarian stating that she felt uncomfortable asking for proof of address from someone who had evacuated their home because the patron likely does not know the current status of their home. So then we had another librarian in Kentucky who waived the fees associated with people who faxed or made copies of documents they needed for tornado relief. And this is about ensuring people have access and removing those restrictions and boundaries that do not serve anyone in a crisis, such as checking your ID to make sure this person is a resident of the area to use your library. If it's during a crisis, like let everyone use it. Another example is the lack of technology or digital literacy, which extends beyond just filling out forms or using a computer to even using a smartphone. In 2023, a library staff member in Kentucky assisted patrons with uploading photos, making copies, navigating FEMA, and even setting up an email address. And the more library staff can familiarize themselves with various technologies, the more helpful they will be in the long run.
Yeah, please keep this slide. And I wanted to please yes, and I wanted to make some notes about Katrina. Katrina happened in 2005, so it hit New Orleans severely. At that point of time, many people set up help centers to guide local residents to file FEMA's claim forms and support local residents to better understand how to set up the user account, how to navigate the FEMA's website, how to check emails, use email account to verify their FEMA account and better understand the wordings in the FEMA form. That was in 2005. 10 years after, we found exactly the same situation when the floods hit Central South Carolina. And we saw that people still cannot set up accounts, email accounts to access the FEMA's claim form. Librarians had to teach the staff members to better understand the FEMA form so the librarians can teach patrons how to navigate the FEMA. In 2024, we found things again. FEMA stationed at the libraries. 2023 to 2024, the same. FEMA worked with librarians to help the local residents to file the FEMA claim form. So what are the lessons learned here? Our community members need our help. As information professionals, shall we make some effort to improve our community members' information and technology literacy? Please think about these questions. As we think about, this is the 20th years anniversary of Katrina. If we are facing the same challenges, can we do more to minimize these challenges, to solve these challenges? Let's all think about it. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so we want to review some best practices that we have learned from these studies. Firstly, you should develop a comprehensive natural disaster policy. What are you going to do in the event of a flood, fire, or tornado? Establish the guidelines and protocols for disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. And these guidelines and protocols should answer a few questions, such as what your frontline staff will do, including services, programs, and patron assistance, and what the closing protocols are in the event of a disaster affecting your building. Then, also, another best practice that we found was conduct a community needs assessment. This will create a detailed community profile informing disaster planning and services. And a community needs assessment is a rigorous research process, and public libraries may require additional support in conducting these assessments. If you are a medical or academic library, consider whether your local public library system could benefit from assistance with designing and conducting a community needs assessment. Utilize your skills across that gap. This is a great way to establish partnerships and relationships that could lead to expanded opportunities for programs and services.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about professional development and education. I am an educator, so I designed these research to examine how librarians serve as first responders before, during, and after disasters. Of course, our studies are limited to natural disaster, but not quite about man-made, like active shooting events are not included in our study. According to our findings, we identified the essential competencies required for librarians to step into first responders' role in times of crisis effectively. To strengthen and expand these competencies, we consulted two experts who provided valuable feedbacks and enhancements. Over time, I have systematically integrated these competencies into the courses I teach, as well as into the professional development programs offered by our team. We're pleased to share these competencies which with you and encourage you to consider incorporating them into your training courses for your libraries or for the NNLM network. So Dana, could you please help us open this website, and I am able to point out some resources that you are able to show us. And of course, I will discuss and show this website a little bit more later. Okay, so while we're waiting for this website, yes, okay. This is a website that we will talk a little bit more. But if you scroll down, or to click on the studies, if you click on the studies and you scroll down to the end, you are able to find these competencies list. There are several subject categories, and each categories have multiple items. And I will mention in a little bit more about the websites and these competency, but at this moment, and I just want you to know that this website and all the resources on the website are for public access, okay? And so feel free to use them, or feel free to get some information on the website. Thank you. So we can go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, in addition, it is important essential, critical to provide internal staff training, and they encourage library personnel or personnel of your institutions to participate in courses provided by professional associations and other sources. This is a practical way to maintain up-to-date knowledge and skills while strengthening overall preparedness. I have personally taken a lot of courses through the National Academies of Science, Engineers, and the Medicines. They have wonderful courses about science and health communication. And through the World Health Organization, they have a lot of courses about risk communication and through various LIS professional associations. April?
Let us discuss expanding lending services. This also includes technology which expanded under COVID when libraries were lending laptop and hotspot kits. Lending services can also include other resources such as information. Find other essential technologies for community use that could provide benefits during disruptions. I'm thinking more about like the library of things that you see popping up too. And the library of things includes items such as power tools that can be checked out and utilized for recovery after a disaster. Imagine community members being able to check out a drill, a pressure washer, or shovels to help with cleanup after disaster. And a lot of people may have lost these tools and equipment during a disaster, and there is a gap that can be filled with this kind of lending service. Also, develop a disaster recovery resource collection. Consider what you currently have in your collection and see if there are additional resources that can be utilized or added to it, perhaps digitally, that can be recovery focused. Work on collecting resources on home building, wildfire-resistant landscaping, and other recovery-focused topics. Currently, the Emergency Response and Preparedness Advisory Committee of NNLM Region 2 is working on a resource repository around extreme heat. And we hope to have that available by early next year. And if you have resources that you think could be useful and want to share, please deposit it. We're looking for things such as documentation on how to establish a cooling center, examples like that. And we are also looking at creating a practical framework around sustainability.
Okay, next slide. Thank you. All right, so based on our findings, we would like to share several recommendations for librarians. Disaster preparedness should begin with raising community awareness about potential hazard and helping individuals prepared for challenges these events may bring. Remember, I asked myself that question in 2015. So it is important. So during a disaster, the most difficult thing is wondering, what if I had been prepared? What if it's just so bitter at that point of time? You know, there is nothing that we can do but just being or just feeling regret. By then, it's already too late. It is also essential to invest in professional development and continuing educations for staff members. Training should extend beyond foundational skills to include areas such as de-escalation techniques, human resources practices, self-care strategies. We're all humans. If we suffer, we cannot take care of others, community staff member at all. We needed to take care of ourselves first. Self-care strategies are so important in times of crisis. and technology skills, all of which are crucial, are critical during times of crisis. The discussion at the webinar yesterday also echoes this. April, next slide, please.
And establishing strategic partnerships before a crisis hits is crucial, and including systems and structures that offer the most flexibility is essential. Additionally, assessing available resources to strengthen your collaboration during emergencies is also important. So relationships with your local emergency services and government will enable you to have the most up-to-date information to share with your patrons. Do you have a relationship with your emergency operations center? And do you even have representation there? And this also helps you understand the library's role within a broader context. If you understand the library's position in the broader framework, it ensures clearer communication channels and minimizes information disruption. What is your role when a hurricane comes through? Do you have an emergency message recorded on the library's phone line or on the website or social media? Is the library open for assistance with FEMA and the Red Cross? Advocate for your library to be involved in these processes and demonstrate that you possess the ability to relay accurate, up-to-date information and the channels to ensure people are informed and supported during recovery efforts.
So this is our slide. So our website, sorry. Dana, could you please bring our website online? Yeah. With the support from a grant awarded by the NNLM Region 2, we have created a website to document summaries of our findings, organize useful resources adaptable for different information environment, and display additional materials, including professional presentations delivered at various conferences. So please refer to the URLs on the slide. So what we wanted to do is to make sure that we all can apply research finding evidence to solve challenges and improve library services. We incorporate evidence-based practices into our daily operations and actively share scientific research with colleagues to strengthen collaborations between researchers and the practitioners. Of course, we really appreciate the general funding from NNLM Region 2 office. So please, on the website, if you go to the resources, that area, you are able to see a lot of resources like disaster plan templates and some of the materials like a guidebook and field work guidebooks over here. So you are able to view a lot of things. So now, next slide, please. So I discussed a little bit about the essential competencies identified through our studies. And we would gratefully value your feedback. And your input will help us refine and strengthen it further. Please feel free to contact us via our email if you would like to discuss this list in more detail and provide your critiques or feedbacks with us, we would be happy to arrange a Zoom meeting to meet with you. So please help us and also help you. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so on this slide, you can see a screenshot of the top 10 tips regarding advocacy and community engagement that is listed on our website. And we have been working on this for a while, and these tips are a companion to our suggestions and recommendations. And our website allows you to rank these tips according to what you believe is most important. And you can even download a PDF of your rankings as well. And please feel free to utilize the QR code on the screen or the hyperlink and URL that we have listed, which I'll also pull up in after this session too. And also earlier this year, we published a journal article in the Journal of Library Administration that offers an in-depth discussion of the qualifications essential for effective crisis leadership in libraries. And the article presents findings from multiple studies, including all the way back to 2015. So please refer to the citation on the slide for full details or get in contact with us. And this concludes our presentation. And we thank you for joining us today. And we will be happy to answer any questions you may have, or if you want to follow up with us later, our contact information is on the screen. So thank you so much.
Well, I just wanted to say in a couple of final words, it is a journey for us. We're continue collecting evidence and maybe we will, and personally, and I thought about we need to know more about earthquake. We needed to know how libraries that respond to earthquake during that very critical moments, just because nobody can make the long-term prediction for any earthquake. And personally, I also think that we should pay attention to the impacts caused by Hurricane Helene. Remember last year, everybody was okay. Helene is okay, and hit somebody, then it's gone. No, Hurricane Helene made a huge turn and hit several states unexpectedly, including Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, covered the two NNLM's regions. So what we wanted to do is to continue our work. So we're working on a framework, including professional toolkits that can be applied for practices and will be posted on our website when we finished. We also hope that we are able to develop the more training programs for librarians. It's based on the evidence we have collected. So if you have any questions, we're more than happy to entertain your questions. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great, awesome. I know I learned so much just based off this presentation, and it dovetails very nicely with what we had yesterday with our panel. So thank you so much, Dr. Kiefner and April as well. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And their emails are also on the screen as well if you had any more direct questions for them as well. But we'll go ahead and wait just a few moments, give folks some time to get their questions in, and then we will go ahead and drop that link in. But we'll go ahead and give folks a minute for some questions. Oh. Oh, looks like we have a question from Diane. How can public libraries prepare to assist people with digital needs, like emails, accessing resources?
Actually, there are several things that I'd like to address. First, always have the regular technology competencies short courses available in the library. Put up on the schedule, and also have some quick tips for technology access on your library's website. And make sure that these websites can be accessed easily and quickly, but not bury in it. So that's a couple of things. And also, I would like to encourage librarians, particularly working in the public technology access areas, to make sure that you would pay attention to the user's needs. The best learning can be provided face-to-face at the point of time, that your user needs the most. So when your librarian, your reference librarians feel that these users may have some problems in the public access area, please offer your help. Probably can go around the area. Some roving reference would be great that can identify some confused faces and all the time. When I was librarians, and I did a whole lot of that. So at one things, like April mentioned earlier, we the ERPAC affiliated with the NNLMR2 are creating some repositories. And the first one is on extreme heat. So I also would like to encourage each public libraries can also create some essential disaster resources on your website in multiple languages. Okay, I am in Humboldt, Columbia, South Carolina. It is not a large city. It's a medium-sized university town. In our Humboldt hometown, there are more than 10 languages are spoken in that community. Not every member can comprehend English well, can access the resources in English well, and thinking about how to create a small collections about disaster preparedness, response, and recoveries for your unique community. It doesn't matter it's a local community, it's a university, or it's a private community that your institutions serve. We all needed to raise the public awareness and make sure that we all feel prepared. That's just some of the things that I feel important. Thank you for your question.
And it looks like we have another question. I might not get this name right. Gaia? Is it best for individual libraries to work on disaster preparedness, or one library in a library system to focus on preparedness, because not every library have the staff to assist in emergencies?
Well, April, would you like to say more? And we just discussed our finding about have and have nots.
I think it depends, honestly, because there are a lot of library systems that have a comprehensive disaster policy just for their library system. But if you think about larger library systems that encompass libraries in different types of areas throughout their county, city, whatever. For example, Charleston County Public Library, they have downtown branches which are subject to flooding. And then there's some in the rural areas. So not every disaster plan is going to work for like every branch in your system, but it's best to try to be as comprehensive as possible in your disaster plan, like be as detailed as possible. Because I know like not every library is going to have the staff to assist in emergencies. So a lot of times, especially in our research, we saw that a lot of the smaller libraries, if they didn't have enough staff to assist in their one branch, they were moved to another branch that would need extra help. But not every library system is able to do that. So it depends on your situation, your staffing, and your budgets too, and what you can do to help assist.
Okay, now I can talk a little bit more about have and have-nots. And we talked about we have visited places coast to coast, okay, from humble South Carolina towns to the largest cities like San Diego, like Los Angeles. We have seen a whole lot. We also seen haves and have-nots. In the rural area, it means have-nots. Okay, they were like Kentucky. In Kentucky, we saw the tornado destroy the entire town. Only 2 buildings left. One is a library and one is a Holiday Inn Express. So where else people would go for asking help? Of course, the library and library staff, and also our community members. They all suffer some impact. At that point of time, they try their best to contact their library systems headquarters to get some help and contact the government. But at the same time, they all trying to support the community members. Okay, now it's a different scenario. Last year, we were in San Diego County Public Library's headquarters. We heard about the big action. They have a team. So the head librarians could tell us that we basically have a form, just establish local assistance centers every time when disasters happen. They have a point person. They had a team. So when a flood happened in their community, they actually have a team ready within 36 hours to establish a local assistance center. Then FEMA went in. Then FEMA went in. Then the local insurance and the private insurance company went in and make the local assistance center as a full-fledged disaster response center. So all of these we learn is, however, that's personally throughout these 10 years, what I learned is, it doesn't matter it's a large library or a very small rural libraries. I hope there is at least the simple notes or a simple brief plan about when disasters happen, the actions that must be taken at that point of time should be available. And I think that's important. Then you can go
He actually
from
answered his own.
helpful.
But coincidentally, I am going to send this to you.
Huh? Is
Yeah,
there
I don't
any
know.
question? Is there any questions? Is there any question? Sorry. Oh, okay. If not, let me continue. And I also wanted to respond to Kathleen's post about hospital library. At the webinar yesterday, one of the panelists talked about Katrina, and that was the hospital libraries. That's very important. And I think we all learned something, that the hospital environment is so unique. And another panelist to say very interesting is, it's about making friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that might cover all the questions, right?
Making friends are so important. Making friends is mean that You have collaborators at that point of time. You have a source to help at that point of time. You are able to call, hello, this is the library director or so-and-so librarian. Our library is pie burst just because of a wintry weather. April got it. April got it. Her library got the pipe broke in the winter time. Things happen. I don't mean that we all wanted to be like a Chicken Little. Oh gosh, the sky would fall. But there's always something that you can fall back on. Trying to assess your environment. What's the most essential things that your environment must have before, during, and a disaster? That's the most important thing.
Okay, so
So any other question, or feel free to turn on your microphone if you wanted to.
we have to do some wrap up, Faylee.
Okay.
If y'all have any questions, please feel free to email me, Faylee, or Denise. We would love to answer any questions, but Nick's going to take over and do some closings for y'all. So I am going to quit sharing my screen, and I'm really enjoying the discussion in the chat. This is great.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.